Let's start with today's lecture. Before that, what we will continue today's lecture on our sine PWM only, as we had discussed. Just we'll go through this diagram, then we'll continue today's discussion. So we had seen in sine PWM or SPWM, the reference wave was a sine wave, and if you want to get a fundamental component of 50 Hz across the output, that is AB, between terminals AB, we have to take the reference signal to be of the same frequency, that is 50 Hz. And the carrier frequency is generally taken 20 times of that. So if it is 50, you can take 20 times 50, that is 1 kilohertz. So a high frequency carrier wave is compared with a sinusoidal wave in order to give these pulses. So how these pulses were compared? We were giving those two pulses in a comparator. So this is positive with respect to this one. So if my sine is higher than this triangle wave, then my PWM will be high. If it is lower, then it will be less. So that's why what we had to do is we had to make some intersection points between the triangle and the sine wave. So between triangle and sine wave, the intersection points are drawn over here. So this ash color sine wave has a ash color intersection line over here, and this red color sine wave has a yellow intersection points. So this intersection points are marked. First, the intersection points are marked, and over here you can find out this point. From this point to this point, my um, sine wave is greater than this triangular wave. That is, my ash color line is having a higher magnitude than my blue color line. So obviously I'll get a pulse during this period. The output of the comparator will be high. So that's why I'm getting a pulse over here. During this period, in the first figure, during this period from this point to this one, my blue line is greater than the ash color line. That means my triangular wave is greater than the sine wave. So it will give a output low over here in the output of the PWM. So this is low over here. And so goes on, continues over here. Now if you compare your red line, red sinusoidal wave with your triangular wave, for the first part from this point to this point, we have the red line to be of higher value than the blue line. That means we'll get a PWM over here. So that's why you can see. So that's why you can see you are getting a PWM over here, PWM-B over here. And rest point from this point to this point will have the red color line to be lower. So we have 0 over here, and so goes on. And A and B are mutually exclusive of one another. So that's why we are giving a NOT gate over here. Now today's discussion will be how we are drawing this VAB, and am I getting the VAB waveform to have a fundamental component of 50 Hz? That is my discussion today. So we'll study about the operation of our inverter, how it is operated when SPWM is applied. Now, if you look at this figure and study it later, you can study it later on your own. There are 4 conditions that appears over here. Okay, means what I'm telling, the condition PWM A is high, PWM A bar is low, and at that time PWM B is high, PWM B bar is low. So there is a one condition I'm telling you, there will be existence of PWM A and PWM B. All other pulses will be off. So those are the conditions. If you study this whole waveform for one complete cycle up to this, from 0 to this point, you will see 4 different types of condition that exist over here. So that is my point of study. That is how I get 4 different conditions. If you analyze the waveform, you'll get 4 different conditions. So first condition which we will take is PWM A and PWM B to be high. Okay, that means we are having a positive pulse, means 1 1 over here. Both are high, that means both are having values 1. Now, if PWM A and PWM B is high, obviously PWM A bar and PWM B bar will be low. That means the lower switches Q2 and Q4 will be off, because if you give a low pulse over here, it will be off. This will be off over here. So what we have, this circuit, only the upper circuit remaining over here. That is my VCC, Q1, LR load or RL load, then point B, then Q3. So that's why I have drawn this circuit over here. This is my main circuit. Then I have realized that what will be my circuit when PWM A and PWM B will be high. That means my Q1 and Q3 will be high. But since my PWM A bar and PWM B bar will be low, Q2 and Q4 will be off. So that's why my whole circuit over here gets simplified into this circuit. So I have used PWM A and PWM B over here, Q1, Q3 on. Now we'll calculate the voltage across load. That means our main objective is to plot VAB. So we need to find out the value of VAB under all the 4 instances. So this is my first instance. See, A point. VCC is directly connected to this A point. So I can say the A point potential is VCC. So VA I have written as VCC. This B point, since Q3 is on, so VCC will be connected to directly this B point through Q3. So I can say VB is equal to VCC. So VA is also VCC, VB is also VCC, VAB is equal to VA minus VB, that is equal to 0. So this is my first condition when my switch Q1 and Q3 can be on according to the pulses which we have generated. And according to that, at that condition, we will have VAB to be equal to 0. Now, next condition. There will be another condition. The second condition that will exist is that when PWM A will be high and PWM B bar will be high. That means PWM B is low. So, if you can see, if PWM A is high in the diagram, which switch will be on? Q1. Now, if PWM B is low, obviously Q3 will be off and Q4 will be PWM B bar, which is given to Q4, it will be high. So Q4 will be on. Since PWM A is high, Q1 will be on and PWM A bar will obviously be low. That means Q2 will be off. So which switches are on now? You recall this one. No need to go into the confusions which switches are there. Means I am telling you in detail if you are not getting with my words. Okay, you just understand which PWM are high, that switch only will be on. So which is high? A and B bar. Which is connected to A? Q1. Which is connected to B bar? Q4. So obviously Q1 and Q4 will be on. So that's why in the diagram I have shown only those switches. That is Q1 is connected to PWM A, so it will be on. And PWM B converted into PWM B bar by this NOT gate and given supply to Q. Now this A point is connected to VCC through this Q1 and B point is connected to ground, right, through this Q4. So what is the potential of A point? VA will be VCC. And what is the potential of B point? VB will be nothing but ground potential, that is 0. So I've written the two values. VA is equal to VCC, VB is equal to 0. So VAB is equal to VA minus VB is equal to VCC. So we had studied two conditions over here. Next we'll go to the third condition. Anybody, if you have any doubt, you can ask, or we will go to the third condition. Okay, I think everything is clear. Next, the third condition that can be got from the figure is that when PWM B will be high and PWM A bar will be high. That means if PWM B is high, which switch will be on? Q3. If PWM A bar is high, now PWM A bar is given to which switch? Q2. So obviously we can say that Q3 and Q2 are on. So I have drawn over here only Q3 and Q2. Q3 is supplied from PWM B and Q2 is supplied from PWM A bar. So Q3 and Q2 will be on now. Now this B point now gets connected to VCC through Q3. So obviously VB will be VCC. Now this A point gets connected to ground through this Q2. So VA will be 0. So I can say VA equal to 0, VB is equal to VCC. And what is my third equation? VAB, that is VA minus VB, that is 0 minus VCC is equal to minus VCC. So this creates my third condition and my circuit is displayed over here. And last and foremost condition is when PWM A bar and PWM B bar are high. So if PWM B bar is high, which switch PWM B bar is connected? Q4. Which switch PWM, which switch, to which switch is PWM A bar connected? It is Q2. So I can say Q2 and Q4 are on. So if Q2 and Q4 are on through PWM B bar and PWM A bar, then A is connected to ground through this Q2 and B is also connected to ground through this switch Q4. So I can say VA is equal to 0, VB is equal to 0, and we can calculate VAB as VA minus VB, that is 0 minus 0 gives you 0. So we have 4 conditions over here. I'll recall with you. One is AB. Okay, remember it like this. One is AB. Okay, opposite to it is A bar B bar, the fourth condition. First and fourth are mutually exclusive. Next, second condition was A B bar, right? And third condition was B A bar. So both are mutually exclusive. So like this you can remember it. It will be very easy way to remember. First and fourth is mutually exclusive. Second and third are mutually exclusive. So these are all the conditions that can be present in the operation of the circuit. Now we will analyze, put these 4 conditions and try to draw the equation, draw the waveform of VAB, because we have got all the 4 values. Right, for all the 4 conditions we have got VAB 0 or VCC or minus VCC we have got. Now we'll try to plot it. So I have taken the main reference wave which I have used earlier so that you can understand in a better way, and VAB is drawn over here. Now VAB I have divided into sections from A to T. Okay, each section I have divided, even the zeros also I have divided. Okay, so A, B, C, D back to T. It goes on to T. So first we'll analyze this positive cycle, that is A to J, A to J. See my analysis, how it is done, instances we have done. A to J we have analyzed. Then we'll do K to T. Okay, our analyzation will be from K to T. Now we'll analyze very minutely all these things. After doing 3 or 4 instances, you can easily get it. So I'll show you 5-6 instances. Then next 4 or 3 you will have to do self study. Now how it is done? For the first instance A, okay, you go to this figure PWM A bar, B bar, B and B bar. So which is high? That means PWM is high during this period, right? And during this period also which is high? B. So I can say PWM A and PWM B is high. So that's why my second column shows me which PWMs are high, A and B. Okay. Now if PWM A and B are high, we have studied all these things. So if PWM A and B are high, which is my first condition, then what will be my VAB? 0. So that's why I have written VAB as 0. Now second instance B. In second instance B, if you go to this figure, you see over here PWM B bar is high. So B is low, A bar is low, A is high. So I can say A and B bar are high. So that's why I've written A and B bar. Now you go to your previous calculations which we have done. A and B bar are high. What was my VAB? VCC. So that's why over here I have written VCC. Now my third condition, number C. Go over here, which is my condition? B bar high. B is 0 and A bar high. So A bar and B bar are high. So that's why I've written A bar and B bar over here. And when A bar and B bar are high, what will be my VAB? 0. So that's why I've written 0 in the third instance. Now number 4, D. Okay. D is the instant at which PWM B bar is high, B is low, A bar is low, A is high. So A and B bar. So you go, I've written over here, see A and B bar. Now B and D also, I'm not going to the previous slide. I'll recall this fact only. A and B bar over here. This is also A and B bar. For A and B bar, what is that? VCC. Over here also VCC. Now next is E. Fifth instant is E. B bar is low, B is high. A is low, A bar is low, A is high. So you get A and B during this instant E. So if A and B is present, so A and B is present, what is VAB? 0. 0. Okay, I think everybody has got A to E, and you can easily study F to J also like that. But one thing is that if your waveform changes over here, my frequency of the carrier waveform changes. That means my triangle will also change. One second. If I take more higher frequency, like this. So under one half cycle, there are 4 waves. There will be many more intersection points. So over here, there are 5 intersection points. So that's why we are getting 10 cycles over here, 10 points over here. Right. If you have more frequency carrier waveform, okay, intersection points will differ and this waveform will also differ. So whenever you are drawing this waveform in your copy, follow it, follow my words. The intersection points will be drawn taken and the pulses will be drawn, and that will change your number of pulses per half cycle. Okay, so please be careful what we are drawing. That sir has drawn in the slide 5 positive cycles, and I will draw in my copy 5 positive cycles, and over here I have drawn 4 triangles. That means it is wrong. Okay, please be careful of that. Whatever you will draw in the copy, that will determine your output voltage. Okay. Next, understood everything? I think you have understood how you have got 0 VCC, 0 VCC, 0 VCC, 0 VCC, 0 VCC. See, it is following a rule. After 0, it comes VCC, then again 0, then again VCC, 0 VCC. This is how, if you want to remember this circuit. First is 0, then VCC, 0 VCC, 0 VCC, like it goes on. Now, next we'll analyze the points K to T. Okay, we'll analyze the first points. Next 5 points will be your point of study. So K point. What is K point? At K point, B bar is high and A bar is high, right? At this point, see which is high, B bar is high and A bar is high. So we'll get A bar, B bar. Now you go to your slides over here. A bar, B bar means B of AB is equal to 0. VAB is equal to 0. Next, during L condition. Now understand this carefully. B bar is 0, B is high, and A bar is high. So A bar B. A bar B. Right? Yes, A bar B. Okay, I'll just go through it once. A bar B, yeah, correct. GAB. So this is A bar B, right? This is A bar B for L. Now in A bar B for L, A bar B, what is my VAB is minus VCC. Okay, so under L, it is A bar B, we are getting minus VCC. Next for M, B is high and A is high. So we'll get AB, so we'll get AB. And we know AB for AB, VAB is 0. Next for N, B is high, A bar is high. So A bar B will give you again minus VCC. Now for O, B bar is high, A bar is high. So A bar B bar will give you 0. So next 5, I hope you can determine by using the pulses. Again, take care of your how many pulses you have drawn in your copy. Okay, if this pulses over here, see over here, how many pulses are there? 2 pulses per half cycle, 2.5. So if you do 4 pulses per half cycle, your intersection points will differ. Your this points will also differ. So as you go on increasing your number of pulses per half cycle, this A to T point will go on increasing. And if you go on decreasing this number of pulses per half cycle, this A to T point goes on decreasing. So this is how we have done the waveform VAB. I hope everybody has understood this. Now, I have also told you that the output voltage will have a fundamental component of 50 Hertz. Now, if you draw a sine wave over here, you are getting a sine wave over here and compare it with this one. Is it matching with the reference wave? Yes. So obviously I can say VAB will have a fundamental component of 50 Hertz. If you take this fundamental component of 100 Hertz, then it should be that VAB will have a fundamental component of 100 Hertz only. That is how you get the output voltage, and how the fundamental component of output voltage is determined by setting the frequency of the reference wave. Be very careful. These are all design aspects. When we design this in MATLAB, then we go for hardware simulation. We have to keep these things in mind. How to take the reference frequency, how to take the carrier frequency, what will be the modulation index, which frequency we have to eliminate, harmonics we have to eliminate. All this should be kept in mind. So we have completed our study of our sine PWM. Now just this slide I have told you, shown you, because if you make a comparison and study, I think it will be good for you and it will be easy for you to remember. So how you make the comparison? See, all this are 0. So wherever 0 is there, 0 is given. 0, 0, 0, 0. And the other values, VCC will, in the negative half, will be mutually exclusive. Will be mutually exclusive. VCC will be minus VCC. Okay, so VCC over here minus VCC, over here VCC, over here minus VCC. So it all goes mutually exclusive. If you check the PWM, it is AB. So obviously it will be A bar B bar. If it is A B bar for the positive side cycle, then it will be A bar B for the negative half cycle. So goes on. You can compare all these things with this one. If this is mutually exclusive, then only you will get a positive pulse, and for the second half, negative pulse. So this is how the PWM is generated. আচ্ছা, এই অবধি যদি কারোর কিছু ডাউট থাকে বলো, আমাকে এক্সপ্লেন করে দেবো, না হলে we will proceed with the next. Okay, we will proceed. Now, we have seen how this is generated, how the fundamental frequency is determined, and if I set a modulation index accordingly, as we had discussed, if less than 1, some harmonics will be eliminated. If greater than 1, lower harmonics can be eliminated. Now, what will be my next point of discussion? There is a problem over here. What is that problem? We have a problem of shoot-through fault, right? We had discussed that the switches of the same legs get turned on instantaneously. That's why it can short circuit the source. The problem exists in this PWM also. Even though I've told you why we use PWM, we need to eliminate the shoot-through fault, but there is an existence of that problem in this PWM. What is happening? See, if you recall the PWM A and B, so Q1 and Q2 cannot be on at the same time. So you can understand Q1 and Q2 cannot be on at the same time, and Q3 and Q4 cannot be on at the same time. But if you look at the pulse over here, Q1 was given PWM A and Q2 was given PWM A bar. So as soon as the PWM A is turning off, the PWM A bar is turning high. So Q1 is turning off and Q2 is turning on instantaneously. So this will cause, there is no delay between this turning on of Q2 and off of Q1. So there is no delay. So since it has to be force commutated, the thyristor has to be force commutated, it requires some time, and both switches will be turned on at the same time, and it will cause short circuit of the source, and so a huge current will flow which may damage the devices. Yes, obviously this condition can be eliminated by you. If you know what the maximum circulating current can flow, you can provide any resistance in the circuit to limit that current. But there will be loss in the resistance, and we don't want any loss in the circuit, because all power electronic circuits are perfect, because we think that the switches are ideal and consider all our calculations, so we have 100% efficiency. Even if switches are not ideal, very less drop occurs. Okay, very less loss occurs. So all these conditions are ideal conditions. So we don't want any other circuits to be included to limit that current, so that in that circuit there will be loss, and at the output is also affected. So we don't want that. So what we will do is that in between this PWM A and A bar, we will give a delay time or a dead time. You have heard of this in control system. So you will include a dead time of 1 to 2 microseconds between A and A bar. Now next slide will go in the procedure of how to give that dead time. So I think you have understood the problem, what it is happening, and we should always eliminate that problem as I have told you, otherwise it will lead to high short circuit current. So next slide is PWM generation. So this PWM A and A bar looks like this only. Actually, our problem looks like this. So it is turning off at this point, and PWM A bar is turning on at this point. So this is our actual PWM which we are getting because of this circuit, right? We were comparing a sine wave with a triangular wave. We were getting getting PWM A over here, and the NOT gate gave me PWM A bar. But what we want to get is PWM A and A bar like this, right? So we don't want this PWM A to turn off at this middle point, middle line. We want it to turn off little bit earlier, and this PWM A bar not to turn on at this middle point. So will be turned on at a later point after that. So we have 3 points over here, 3 lines drawn over here. So now what we need is this figure, PWM A and A bar. So you see between PWM A and A bar, there is a sufficient 1 to 2 microsecond dead time present. This dead time will be determined by the circuit only. How, with what frequency over here is given, what is the frequency of this, all will be determined by that. And obviously another signal, there is epsilon, it will be determined that only. We'll look into that. So we'll provide a dead time over here. Okay, so there is a gap between this and this, so obviously the Q1 and Q2 doesn't get on and off at the same time. So that problem can be eliminated. So how we are doing this? So we are taking a triangular wave over here, and we are comparing this triangular wave with the sine wave, but we were adding and subtracting a small DC quantity with this triangular wave. Okay, so we are adding at the top, we are subtracting this at the bottom. So we'll get a different waveform from this. VC minus V epsilon will be obtained over here, and over here you will get VC plus V epsilon, and that will be compared with VM to give you PWMA, and in the lower that will be compared with VM to give PWM A bar. So we are including this small DC voltage, that is V epsilon. Now what is done over here? This was my figure, and what it is done.
স্যার এখানে ডেট টাইম বলতে কি বোঝাচ্ছে?
এই যে মাঝখানে যে গ্যাপটা,
আচ্ছা,
এই যে মাঝখানের যে গ্যাপটা, আগে একই পয়েন্টে অন হচ্ছিল, অফ হচ্ছিল, এই পয়েন্টে যেই পয়েন্টে 0 যাচ্ছিল, it was going high, it was going at the same instant, but now এইটা দেখো, এইটা এখন কোথায় অন হচ্ছে, এখানে অফ হচ্ছে, আর এটা কোথায় যাচ্ছে, এখন শিফট হয়ে গেছে, তাহলে এতটা গ্যাপ পেয়ে গেল। এই গ্যাপটাকে ডেড টাইম বলছি। দিস গ্যাপ ইজ নোন অ্যাজ ডেড টাইম, or you can say delay time, whatever you want to say. আচ্ছা দেখো, এই যে মাঝখানে যে ওয়েভফর্মটা, মাঝখানে যে অ্যাশ কালার লাইন, ওকে, this is your reference waveform, this is the actual signal, okay, actual value, ওর জন্য লিমিট গুলো দিয়ে দিয়েছে, maximum amplitude will be this one, my actual value. Now if I add a epsilon, So it will increase slightly. Therefore, it is represented by green line now. So it is increased slightly. Now, if I decrement with epsilon value, if I decrease it by epsilon, it will decrease. So that is represented by this red line. So both lines are drawn, and those intersection point with my sine wave, this is my reference wave, is calculated. So for PWMA, where it is compared, VC plus is this, VC plus is compared with VM. Okay, so we'll get this intersection line of the of this blue line with the green one. So this is my intersection point, and this is my intersection point over here. Okay, so during this point, which is high, where sine wave is high, during this point sine wave is low, so obviously this is 0 over here. Okay, and the other points over here, from this point to this point, this blue line is greater than the sine means green line, so we are getting a pulse height. Similarly, if you do for PWM A bar, we'll compare it with this line, red line. Okay, during with this red line, these points of intersection. So these are the points of intersection over here. Now over here, which will be greater, VC plus. So VC plus means this triangle. So if this VC plus is greater, because VC means VC minus, because VC minus is fed to this plus terminal. So obviously this PWM will be high when VC minus is greater than VM. So if VC minus is greater than VM, that is only the small portion, you will get a pulse over here. So you will get a pulse over here. So this continues over here. Now you see PWMA is off over here. PWMB is turned on over here. So you can see a delay time over here. This much is your delay time. Then after PWMA bar is off, between PWMA starts on, there is a delay time. So this is how you are giving a delay time in the sine PWM in order to avoid the shoot through or cross conduction fault. So how? By including a small DC voltage, that is V epsilon. If you know MATLAB simulations, you can simulate this also and check how it is happening. You use Simulink in MATLAB and try to perform this and check whether these waveforms are coming or not. You take a triangle. I told you how to choose frequency. You can see a signal generator in MATLAB and you can do it. Generate a triangular wave, generate a sine wave, you can do, and use a comparator, compare it and give it to a scope. Then you can get this results. So everything what we have studied in power electronics can be simulated in MATLAB, Multisim. We have shown you online, and also PC that I have already provided. You can verify what I am telling you in all these three things. Okay. So this was our discussion on our current SPWM. Now our last discussion is current source inverter. Last topic of discussion is current source inverter. Now what is basic? We have studied VSIs, voltage source inverter, and now we'll study current source inverter. According to the name only you understand. See, voltage source inverter, my voltage input was fixed. My current level was changing. If you recall all the first and second lecture, you will see your input current, it was changing, but our voltage level was fixed. That was either Vs by 2 or Vs for half bridge and full bridge inverter. But over here, current will be fixed. Okay. So in my first point addresses to that. In CSI, input current is constant and adjustable, obviously. You can adjust the current, but the level is fixed. Okay. And maintained at a constant level, irrespective of the load and inverter condition. Even though you change any inverter conditions, even though you change in the load, the input current will always remain constant. Now, how we are trying to make the input current constant? What we'll do is connect a large inductor in series with the source. What does inductor do? It doesn't allow change in current. So that inductor will help in keeping the current constant and also act as a filter. So that point is written over here. Then that inductor can be acting as a filter is written over here. And another thing, what is the DC input taken from the invert to the CSI? You can take it from the battery, but generally it is taken from the output of a rectifier. So you can take a direct rectifier, controlled rectifier, okay, using thyristor, or you can use a diode rectifier and use a chopper in series with it to control the voltage. Or if you want a controlled voltage, you can use a controlled bridge rectifier. And since commutation is used, there are two types of commutation. One is force commutation, one is load commutation. It can be commuted in both ways, that is turning of the switches. And where it finds the application, it can be used to control AC motors. Okay, AC motors means three-phase induction motor. It can be three-phase single phase also. It can be used in induction heating, and it can also be used in synchronous motor starting. So we'll go into discussion of this CSI. Meeting. That's a 1 minute backward. Okay. This is the basic diagram of CSI. See, as well as telling that we'll have a voltage source over here, and in series we'll have an inductor. This will act as a filter also, and this will try to maintain the current constant also. So this current I over here, shown over here, is constant. Okay. Now this is a power circuit over here, which includes the four thyristors T1, T2, T3, T4, and the load drawn with positive directions of current and voltage. So plus and minus, there is a rise in potential in the upward direction, as you can see. So this will be plus, this will be minus across the load, and current flows into the load. So this direction of current I0 and polarity of voltage V0 will be treated as positive. So this is my CSI. This is my constant current source. So this is my load. Next is we'll study what are the waveforms present over here. Now I'll discuss according to the points which I have written. So first point is that we have considered, we'll consider only this circuit for CSI. There are many circuits for CSI. Here current source inverter we'll study. Just one by one point we'll study. That's okay. Now this will be CSI. We are studying CSI. So what we are doing is we are studying a single phase CSI. There are many types of CSI. If you go through the books, so there are many types of CSI. We are studying the basic CSI. Okay. We'll not study anything more detail into this. We'll study mainly VSIs, which we have discussed. CSI, I'll just discuss one circuit. If you want to study more, you can go through books. There are many types of CSIs according to the commutations, according to the loads. They have classified many types of CSI. We'll just get the basic idea of what CSI does, current source inverter. And next, what we'll do, we'll study the difference between VSI and CSI. That is our scope of study. So what we have done is taken a single phase CSI. Okay, you can understand single phase because at the output we are getting a single phase AC only, one voltage only. We are not getting three phase voltages. So that is a single phase CSI, and all VSIs also we have studied our single phase VSI because we are either having VS by 2 or minus VS by 2. So only single phase AC. And these thyristors are considered as ideal, so there will be zero commutation time. So there is no problem of that shoot through fault and all. We are considering it ideal. So at the point when that pulse goes low, it is off. At the point when the pulse goes high, it gets turned on. So no need of dead time over there. Okay. And obviously I have told you positive directions of load voltage and load current are shown in the diagram that I have told you. Now next is that what we are connecting a series large inductance, what it is required, it will maintain constant current and it will also act as filter. Okay. So now we'll go to the circuit. So what is my source current I? It is a constant current C, constant current I, current input to CS. Now what is happening in this case? We'll discuss it over here, then go to the point. Okay. So first what we'll do is T1 and T2 is on. Okay, so you see my current starts flowing from the source positive. So this inductor I T1 goes in this direction to the load. So now see my movement of the mouse. The movement of the mouse and the direction of I0 is same. So can I say I0 is positive? So I'll say I0 is positive during this case. Okay, then I'll come to the magnitude of I0 later. Then from load it goes, then it goes over here T2 back to this negative. Okay, now I0 is positive and this whole circuit from EL, T1, load, T2 back to E- is a series circuit. So whatever current over here I is there, it will be nothing but flowing through the load also. So I can say I is equal to I naught. So that's why I naught is equal to I during T1 and T2. And I naught is positive and magnitude equal to I. And next, when T3 and T4 are on, so current starts flowing. Acha, what will be my volt? Okay, we'll come to the voltage later. Acha, just remember over here current is entering in this terminal. So plus to minus it is going. So voltage will also be positive. Since we are considering steady state, so you know at starting it will start from positive only. This we are drawing a steady state waveform, charging, discharging. Okay. So next what we are having over here. Next. I'll come to this later. If you are telling that this one is negative, I'll come to this in the next slide. Means while explaining you the voltage, just for now understand this is positive. This is positive over here. Don't go with this part. Think this is positive. This line is having a positive slope. Okay. Think about that. Now, if T3 and T4 is on, what will happen? Current will start flowing from plus inductor. This T3 comes to this point over here, goes in this direction of the mouse. My mouse is going in the top direction. So now I naught and my direction is opposite. So obviously I naught will be negative. So back to T4, then minus. So if I naught is minus and the whole circuit is in series, can I say I naught is equal to minus I? So that's why I have drawn minus I over here. So I minus I minus I minus I. Now, if you compare with your VSI, so it was Vs minus Vs, Vs minus Vs goes on. Now we are getting a square wave nature, symmetrical square wave nature of current. Over there was symmetrical square wave nature of voltage. Okay. Because there was constant voltage over here, here is constant current. That's why output current will also be constant and symmetrical in nature. That is the reason. Okay. So that is my third point. You see. So if T1 and T2 is on, I naught is positive equal to minus I. If T3 and T4 is on, I naught is negative and that is equal to minus I. And this frequency of operation for which time it will be on and off will all depend on how much time you will turn on your T1, T2, T3, T4. For this figure, it is, if it is this much is my frequency. If I change my figure like this is my T1, T2, this is my T3, T4. So obviously frequency will change. So it is dependent on how you turn on this T1, T2 and T3, T4. Okay, so all the switching frequency will determine your frequency of output current. Next point, we have to draw the voltage. So I'll tell you in terms of equation, you can understand in a better way in terms of equation, then we'll plot the graph. So if I think it is a capacitive load, okay. So I naught is equal to C dV naught by dt, you know, capacitor. So from here, if you do V naught is equal to 1 by C integration of I naught dt. Now in the first instance, T1 and T2 was on. And what was I naught equal to? I, right? Or capital, okay, what we have used over here is capital I. So I'll change this as capital I. So this is I by C into T. I naught is nothing but a constant value, that is capital I. So I by C into T. So I by C, see y equal to mx. So you are drawing y axis, that is nothing but V naught. And this is my m, I naught by C into T. X is my T axis, right? X axis is my T axis. So what is my slope? I by C. And what is I by C? It is a positive slope. So that's why we are getting a positive slope over here. Okay, don't go after the magnitude. Why we are drawing this? We are drawing a positive slope over here of this line. Now in the second cycle, T3 and T4, you can observe that I naught has become negative. So I can write over here minus I by C into T. So minus I by C is negative slope. That's why you see the current is decreased. I think everybody has understood this. One second, just. Okay. Okay. So we are having a positive slope over here, negative slope over here, and so continues for the other. Now how we are drawing this voltage input? Okay. Now if T1 and T2 is on, right? If you apply KVL, this voltage polarity is written, right? This is positive, this is negative. So V in is equal to V naught. So what is V naught during this period when T1 and T2 is on? This positive slope. So positive increase. Now when T3 and T4 is on, so this polarity changes. This becomes minus. So I'll draw it for you. This becomes plus, and this becomes minus now. So V naught in is equal to minus V naught now. So minus of this one. So slope was what? Negative. Minus of this will give me plus. So it is a increasing slope over here. So positive, positive. Both slopes are positive over here. Okay. Since you can think it like this way also, we are giving a positive voltage only, right? So obviously this should be positive only. This should be positive only. Now, another point I have not written over here for your understanding. You know, at the load, motors are connected because output is AC and voltage is controlled or current is controlled. We can control the speed. Ultimate speed control is brought about through all this power electronic circuit. Now, what I was telling you. Sorry, I forgot what I was telling. Okay, we'll just go through the differences. Then, if I remember, I'll tell you this point. I'm just forgetting. Okay, just go through this difference one. So we are at last we have compared CSI and VSI. So in CSI, VSI, what was that? Input voltage was maintained constant and input current may or may not be constant. But over here you can see my input current is maintained constant, but my input voltage may change with load. Okay, my voltage was changing with load. It was changing with load. Oh, I remember that if this average value of this V in is positive, that means my power flow is from this source to load. Okay, if this average value is negative, then power flow is from load to source. That means you are getting regenerative braking, right? So when power flow is from, you are operating the motor in generating mode, because that will generate some power and give it to the supply. So please take care of this. What will be the average value of this V in? So that was the point I missed out. So now going into comparison over here, first point I think you have understood. Next point is that in VSI, what is happening? There was a problem of misfiring of the switches. There's a problem of cross conduction fault. If I don't give a dead time, then there can be a short circuit current flowing through this. But since in CSI, the current is constant, right? This input current is constant. So if it is 5 ampere, it can't exceed 5 ampere anytime. So if that current becomes constant, even if there is a misfiring of the switching device, it will not cause any short circuit, serious problem, because we know that the current is constant, that is 5 ampere, and according to that only we have taken the thyristor. The thyristor can handle 5 ampere current. But in case of VSI, if I am taking a 5 ampere thyristor and my short circuit current is 10 ampere, then it will damage the device. So it is a very much advantage for your CSI. Now amplitude of the low voltage doesn't depend upon your load, because you know it can be either Vs or Vs by 2. Over here amplitude and waveform will depend upon your load. For a capacitive waveform, I have drawn this one. For an inductive, for a RL load, it will change. Accordingly, you can draw it. So it will change according to the type of load. This is opposite in terms of current. See, these 2 points are mutually exclusive. For this voltage does not dependent. For this voltage depends. For this current depends. But for this current is independent of the load. This you know. We have stated in this point also, input current is constant. And output current all depends upon the load. And output current is independent of the load because it is dependent on the input current. And now, another important point that comes from this second point only, if there is a short circuit current, the peak current through the device and the short circuit current would be more. Just now I was giving an example. If I am taking a thyristor of 5 ampere and my short circuit current is 10 ampere, it will damage the device. But over here, since input current is constant, that 5 ampere current will only flow through a thyristor. So if I am taking a 5 ampere thyristor and the input current is 5 ampere, then it is not a problem. Obviously, you can't use a 3 ampere thyristor and in a 5 ampere circuit, so that is not feasible. So don't think about that. But if my current is 5 ampere and I take a 5 ampere thyristor, then it is okay. There is no problem because short circuit will not occur and current will not increase. And over there is a complexity of commutation circuit. Over here, computation of means commutation circuits in CSI are simpler. So these are all the points of a CSI. So if you are told to write CSI, you will write this one only in your exam and draw this waveform and explain all these points. Okay, no need to give the difference. If difference is asked, then it will be asked for 2-3 points. You can ask. Okay, and dead time generation can be a question. How dead time is generated? So what is the problem associated with if no dead time is generated? You can write down. So how dead time is generated? You have to draw this circuit, write in words what I have told you, explain. Okay, and then show this waveform, and then show this waveform, and also show this how dead time is generated. These points are written over here. How PWA and A bar are generated. You can go through this. Okay. This dead time all depends upon how much you choose your V epsilon. If you choose your V epsilon more, so it will increase like this. If you choose, that means it will decrement also more, right? Yeah, I think you can go through it. Means if this is my reference over here, if I take a small value of V epsilon, then it will be close to this. If I take a large value of epsilon, the higher value will be more, the lower value will be very much less. So it all depends upon how you choose your epsilon. That will give you your this dead band over here, this small dead band over here. So this is very important for design aspects also. And I've also explained this CSI. Next day, we will do three-phase inverter. That is, we are converting DC supply voltage into three-phase. Because ultimately, all AC motors which we have studied, except single-phase AC motors, all motors up to now we have studied is three-phase induction motor and three-phase synchronous motors. Okay, so all need three-phase supply, and so we need three-phase inverters. So from a DC supply, we will get three phase. At the output, we will get three phase. Over here, one voltage is obtained. So it is single phase. All we have studied are single phase. So please be careful of that.